What's up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for, the final Pittsburgh Steelers Post-Game Podcast of this 2020-2021 season as the Pittsburgh Steelers lose in embarrassing fashion to the Cleveland Browns at Heinz Field in the AFC wildcard round. Haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Hard to believe, but that's truth. That's fact. And we're going to talk about this every which way and probably others. And I'm sure that a lot of venting is going to be going on at live right now on YouTube and on Facebook. So before we get into all the minutia, let's bring in Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer. What's going on, Bryan?
Hey, fellas, the holidays are officially over for me because when the Steelers are eliminated, that's when they're pretty much over. I got to tell you, I hated this. At one point, I just started laughing because it was laughable how bad that one team can be on offense.
Dave Schofield, other co-editor. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hey. That wasn't even the good hey, was it?
We did know. We do have to talk about this game. I mean, it's important, and this is a space for, I said this on my Twitter feed during the game. It was in the first half. I said, you know what? Everyone needs a space where they can go and just vent, rail off. And I said, my mentions are ready for it. And I had probably over 100 comments on that one tweet. Just people just not yelling at me, just getting their frustration. This is what, if you're watching us live on YouTube, that's what the live chat's for. I'm not going to say we're going to bring up every single comment, but this is your chance to talk it out. And that's all we can do. Jeremy Smith gives us $4.99. Thank you for the tip. We appreciate it. He said, put this in the beer fund. I'd give you some of my Busch Light, but I drank it all in the first quarter. Real quick, it was funny in the Hartman house. The kids wanted to stay up and they wanted to watch some of the game. I let them stay up to halftime, and they were watching the first half, and they're like, what is going on? And I said, girls and my son who's sitting there, I said, this is the frustrations of being a fan. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you put so much into it. I said, you listen to your dad do podcasts. He's writing articles all the time, and yet you have zero control over the outcome. I said, it's one of the most frustrating things of being a fan of any sport team at any level. I said, it's really frustrating. And of course they said, well, if you were out there, they would be winning. I was like, probably not, but that's funny that you say that. But it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating when you're watching your team go down. What was it? 28-0 in the first quarter. I mean, or did they kick I'm sorry. I've literally lost
28-0.
Okay.
Correct.
And it was 35-10 at halftime.
Yes. Yeah. And so when you look at it in that lens, the fact that they've made the final score what it was, which is 48-37, man. But let's get to this last super. I have a question for you guys first. So Michael Clark, $4.99. Thank you very much, Michael. He said, we had no heart. How were we not prepared? How much of this is Tomlin, Fietner, Ben, and others? We're going to get to that for sure. And then I want to also get to this $2.99. Lee gives us $2.99 and says, is there any possible way to make a bid on Watson? He's talking about Deshaun Watson, who's supposedly the disgruntled quarterback of the Houston Texans. I don't think the Steelers have what it takes in terms of capital, draft picks, whatever, to lure a guy like Watson. But before we get into the coaches, and we will, I'm sorry, Adrian gives us $1.99. Guess the rest didn't work. I guess he's talking about Roethlisberger, Pouncey, Watt, and Hayward. We're going to get to that. We will. Absolutely. But real quick, before we get to the coaches, and Michael asked about the coaches, we'll get to that for sure. Did this game remind you more of the Jacksonville game in 2017, the playoff loss? I said that on Twitter, and then someone else who's a follower of mine said it reminds them of, was it 2014 Super Bowl with the Broncos and Seahawks, where the first play from scrimmage was a snap over, I think, Peyton Manning's head that ended up as a safety, and it was just derailed. Which game did this remind you of more? For me, this was like a carbon copy of 2017. Bryan, what do you think?
John Oates was not in the building, so we could take that off the table right now. Yeah, I think you're right. This reminded me of that Jacksonville game. Of course, you're going to have an opportunity to come back when you're down that much, and I get that. But my frustration even more was with the defense not stopping anybody when they really needed to stop somebody on some of those drives.
Yeah. Dave, what are your thoughts on the overall game itself.
Yeah, well, it's funny that it feels kind of like a combination of those two Jacksonville games from 2017, both the regular season and the playoffs, because I was at the stadium for both of them, and I would have been at the stadium tonight if it would have been a normal year. But the reason I say it's a combination of both is because the Steelers didn't have as many turnovers in that playoff game as what we remember. Ben only had one pick and I think a fumble that they returned for a touchdown right before halftime. And there was more turnovers, but did you really expect the defense to do what they did? I mean, honestly, for me, I didn't think that one half from the Indianapolis game was enough to feel like everything was clicking good with Ben and everybody else. I'm like, well, maybe, I kind of had to, I wanted to think it was good enough, but I didn't really know if it was good enough. But I never questioned the defense. I didn't question the defense to just not be able to get a stop. I mean, they got stops in the third quarter. And then as soon as the Steelers decided to punt on and to start the fourth, the defense couldn't stop them anymore. Yeah. So I know I'm saying more than what you asked, but
it's okay.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. It's venting for us too. Tom gives us $5. The Browns have beaten us twice this month. It's official. 2021 is worse than 2020. Cheers, boys. Here's to rebuilding
during the game.
Off season. Grayson Brown gives us $9.99. He says defense hasn't allowed over 30 points all year. This playoff loss hurts more than 2017, 2016, 2014, and being T-bowed. This ranks number one. We lost to Cleveland at home. I'm ready to rebuild and move on. I have a feeling that the rebuild part, you're not alone there, Grayson. Machu has been a big fan, a big contributor. We appreciate you. He said it gives us $12.05. That's obviously for the record of the Steelers. He said, and another year being a Steelers fan. So many questions, no answers yet. Besides the loss, seeing Ben and Pounce on the bench post-game crying just tore me up. I did not see them crying. I thought maybe I left to get ready for the podcast. I don't know. I saw him on the bench, and he was just kind of staring off into space. You kind of got the feel that he was like, just taking it all in. But I didn't see him crying. I don't know. Brighton gives us $2.99. Mediocrity is the standard in Pittsburgh. Sadly, that seems to be about true. Boy, they're really coming in quick now. Straight Ace gives us $5. As Steeler fans need to stop predicting blowouts every single time. Steeler fans and media, we get destroyed. Am I the only fan that realized that's bad mojo? I don't think my prediction has anything to do with the Steelers on the field at all. That's just me. I could be wrong. Maybe I do have that kind of power. That would be pretty cool. Funky G, whoa.
Holy cow.
He gives us $100.69 yearly subscription fees. Good season. Thanks for the content. You guys rock. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. Is that the new record there, guys?
That is the new record, and I got to tell you, hats off to Funky G for the Frank Gorshin with the Riddler there.
Yeah, old school Riddler.
Yeah.
That was awesome. All right. Thank you very much. My gosh, that's pretty incredible. We'll leave that up there for a little bit longer. I'm trying to see if I got it. Here we go. Wilson gives us $20. Says nothing changes. Still love the Steelers. Well said, Jeff. These games are the ones that define true fans from bandwagoners. Ben and Pouncey on the bench was all of us. Sadly, that's been us since week 12. Love you all. Did hashtag fire feeder. He put that in there. Did you guys see Ben and Pouncey crying on the bench?
I saw them together on the bench. I didn't actually see. I don't know that it looked. I don't know if it was tears or if it was sweat.
Yeah.
I am fine if that's what they were doing because.
Well, I don't care.
That was
I just didn't see it.
I love that comment. It's like, yeah, that was all of us.
Yeah.
That was all of us.
Brighton Barnes gives us $4.99. He said Tomlin is to blame. We were outcoached by a team without their coach.
Well, Tomlin didn't snap the ball over.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Gyro gives us $1.99. He said, if this is the end, I love you 7-19. Referring to Roethlisberger and Juju Smith-Schuster. We shall see what the future holds for them. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure I get to all these. Adrian gives us another $1.99. Says, did Ben not handshake Baker at the end? I didn't. I think Ben sat on the bench. He didn't go to the middle of the field. So I don't know. Runner gives us $4.99. Said, regardless of the INT, Pouncey lost us the game and gave the Browns the momentum. Hard to disagree with that sentiment, to be honest with you. DS gives us $9.99. He said, I apologize if this is too soon, fellas, but I'm trying to be optimistic and looking for answers. Do we take a quarterback at number 24? Thanks. You guys are awesome. First and foremost, is it for sure that the Steelers will be the 24th pick? I had not seen that become official. I was going to write that article for tomorrow. I didn't know if anyone.
I haven't seen it official, but I was listening to the press conference, everything.
Yeah, okay.
I would think so. And the reason I would think so, what they do in this situation is they go by the record of the 4 teams eliminated, and the Steelers have the best eliminated. The 6. And the Steelers had the best record of all 6 that bowed out this weekend.
All right. Very good. Ryan O'Toole gives us $5. Can we use bad language tonight? Seems appropriate. Thanks for another season of awesome Steelers.
Not on the screen.
Just try to keep it as clean. I get it.
You don't be derogatory towards other people, or we'll have
there you go. There you go. William Hall gives us $5. Said Tomlin needs to be fired. He's average. I know people are going to say it's the players, but they're never ready to play. Again, we're going to get into this for sure. Trust me. If we ever get through these, Doc Holliday gives us $5. He said the Steelers is the Steelers team. Is broken from top to bottom. If they can't see that, I don't know what they're watching. Golly, this is all over the place tonight. Shield 91 gives us $5. It's brutal. I wasn't ready for the offseason so quick, but I still love the Steelers and BTSC. I'll be here all offseason. Thank you, Shield, and we will be here all offseason as well. We'll still be doing our podcasts on YouTube and on Facebook. We'll still have a lot of audio content. If you're thinking that we're a site that's like, we'll see you around the draft, no. We will be picking up right where we left off. Tate Boys gives us $4.99. Said Ben needs to retire. I'd like to see Josh Dobbs get a chance. Quarterback with legs is a difference maker. Go ahead there.
I want to say this. I just want to remind everyone, I love Josh Dobbs. The guy's brilliant. Big fan. But you have to remember, the team with the number 1 pick in the NFL draft did not even have them in their top 3 quarterbacks to start the season and released him, and that's how he got back on the Steelers. Just remember.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. All right. So Illegal Italian gives us $2. That is this the worst season collapse in NFL history? I don't know.
Not NFL history.
No. It could be one of the worst collapses in Steelers history for sure. Steel Dog 88 gives us $5. The Browns are still the Browns, right, Juju? Remember Ryan Clark.
A lot of so much of his, if you listen to his interview, what everyone ran with was really taken out of context.
But I saw the interview.
But it still wasn't good.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's one of the situations where they just shut up. Just give the stock answer. Just give them, that. That's, I don't know. Okay. Let's start diving into some of these topics. I don't think I missed any of that.
We might need to say, let's calm down on the super chats. We don't want to say it. I haven't heard Bryan speak for 15 minutes, so I don't know what to do.
I've just been reading to everyone. It's like I'm reading books to my kids. Okay, let's start with Bryan here. So Ben Roethlisberger throws for a ridiculous number of yards, over 500 yards. He completes 47 passes, I think. Let me get you the actual numbers here so that here we go. I got it. We don't need your Yahoo stats. So he 47 of 68, 501 in terms of yards, average 7.4, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, 0 sacks, 85.5 rating. We're not going to do the grade thing, but guys, I mean, what are your thoughts on Ben after this game? Bryan, go ahead.
After the whole thing fell apart on the very first play of the game, they're down 7-0. I felt like they went in panic mode just like that. They're going for it on 4th down. They're just going crazy right away. Ben's slinging it. Any game plan that they were going for, gosh, it was out the window just like that. Even down 7-0. I thought Ben was gripping the entire time. And, sure, those numbers are great in the second half, but he was allowed to have those numbers because they were never a threat.
Dave, thoughts on Benjamin Todd?
Well, when the defense that you're going up against is basically going into prevent in the second quarter, it's a little bit easier to get some good stats, if you know what I mean. Everything had to do with how the game played out. It was all about how the game played out. If the Steelers were down a lot, you knew they were going to be chucking the ball to be trying to get back in it. And when it was somewhat close early, the Steelers were running the ball somewhat effectively. You know what I'm saying? But they couldn't do that anymore. They're like, oh, well, you can't win the playoffs if you can't run the ball. Well, you can't run the ball if you're down 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, a lot of it was just dictated by what was going on. But I mean, he did give us a little bit of glimmer. Did you guys feel like there's at least a chance, but I'm not banking on it? Is that how you were feeling in the second half? That's how I was feeling. I was like, the way they've played, it just doesn't seem like it's going to come back that way. But Jeff?
I honestly felt the same exact way I did against Jacksonville in 2017. And that's the offense is waking up and the defense can't get off the field. Yeah. The defense is not going to be able to get a stop. And that's exactly what happened. Right when the Steelers would score and they're thinking, okay, here we go. Boom. But we knew this is capable of happening. Bad Ben has reared his ugly head a lot. And sadly, a lot this past month, this last stretch of football. Before we get to some super chats, real quick, Bryan, yes or no, Ben Roethlisberger retires at this offseason?
No, he has 41 million reasons or so to not.
Dave Schofield.
41 isn't what he gets paid. That's just his cap hit. 22 and a quarter of that, I think, is dead money. Even if he walks away, that counts on the cap for the Steelers. I think it's 19 that he'd be walking away from. It's really hard to make the decision now for him. So if I'm him right now, I'm thinking about it.
It's not if you are. It's do you think he will?
Honestly, no, I don't think he will.
There's a part of me that thinks he is done. That I think that he's, this was a tough year on him. But then again, there's another part of me that says he went through the whole elbow thing, and you'd hate to go out like he did in a game where you throw for 500 yards, complete more passes than anyone ever has in the NFL. I think is the stat I saw on the screen, and that's just awful. But let's get to some super chats here. Mark Davison gives us $5 dingo dollars. And since Bryan, do you want to read this in your Australian accent since it's the best? Or
crikey, me fish and chips look like squashed mud. Hashtag Devo. Put another shrimp on the bobby.
Sorry.
I even practice in the shower, and my family yells at me.
Oh my!
All right, I know I missed a couple here. Let me see if I can find them. Dave, here we go. There's Grayson's. I think
I'm so far behind. I don't know what to do.
Here's Grayson's $4.99. I've never been so sad and angry at the same time. How can your defense save you if you throw 4 interceptions and give up a defensive touchdown, 28-0 in the first quarter? Maybe they can't disagree with that at all.
Before Grayson, I don't think
there was one, Dave. So if you see it,
I can't get it on StreamYard. It's too far back. I'll see what I can do.
To look on your phone. Steel Dog $2. He said thought on Rooney's role this offseason. I tweeted out I'd love to be a fly on the wall in Art Rooney's suite during that game. I bet he was fuming. I mean, his role as a president. Do you have it, Dave?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. His role as the team president is going to be to make the tough decies. So we'll see how it goes. Go ahead, Dave. Read that.
Because we can't bring it up anymore because it's gone too far.
There's a lot of people.
B. Mentolo gave $5 into the tip jar and said, nice. It's time to retool the offensive line. Ben threw for almost 70 attempts. 70 ! Because this team cannot run the ball. Pouncey getting pushed around. Pouncey did get pushed around on that second attempt a lot. I mean, granted, the play worked once, so they said, let's run the same. It worked great because they weren't ready for it, and then they ran the same play. And Pouncey got blown up. So,
well, who would have thought that the let's save it for the playoffs was just a fullback dive? That was it. That's what Randy Fichtner saved for the playoffs. Everyone said, what's going to be the trick play? A fullback run. There you go. You're welcome, Steeler fans. Adrian gives us $1.99. All AFC remaining quarterbacks young, all NFC old but one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. Maddie Peverell, the other part of the touchdown under, which my kids now can't say under normally anymore. They always have to say under. Because I let them listen to a little bit of the podcast. He said, Bryan sounds like a pirate.
Hey.
There was definitely some Latin America coming in through that too. I don't know where that came from.
You know what? I'm going to go to a dialect coach with all the super chat money.
Oh my gosh. William Hall gives us $5. Said, come on, get rid of Ben. It's not him, people. The coach and his staff need to go. Then
you get an opposing view coming up in the next one.
Which is Brandon, or is it? I'm sorry. Here we go. Rod L said $5 from Rod. He says, so ready for Mason now. Yeah, everyone's all over the place today. I get it.
Yeah.
Brandon King gives us $4.99. He said, Ben's not solely responsible. He can still make the throws when he needs to. Who is to say that they didn't limit him 1 year off of surgery? It's possible. Brighton Barnes, another $4.99. He said, I hate to be the hater, but Belichick would have taken this team all the way. Tomlin has always had the talent for the most part, but can't get it done.
Have they?
What?
Do they have the talent? Honestly, because I look at this offensive line, I don't know why two guys were selected to the Pro Bowl. Because
it's reputation. It was reputation.
I mean, I don't think this is mainly coming from me as a guy that looks at the offensive line a lot. I don't think that this offensive line is that great.
Well, let's answer this question since we're on the topic. Tim gives us $4. He said, what do you guys think about not going for it on 4th and 1? I want to say there was probably about 12 minutes left in the game, possibly.
No, that was the first play coming into the fourth quarter.
All right, so I'm sorry. Good call. And did you think that the punt was a good decision, or did you think it was bad? Dave, you actually got a celebrity response.
I did.
I'll let you start off with this one.
I can't say his name though. I always butcher his name. So, but
what's your story? Go for it.
Well, I was gonna say Joe Manganiello, or I can never say his name right. Actually, responded to my tweet and said, "Great point." And my tweet was, I said we can debate all offseason whether or not they should have punted or gone for it. Personally, I say they should have gone for it because your offense was rolling. Yeah, you're like, well, you want to put your defense in a good spot. If your defense is doing that well, then they'll get the stop in your own zone and not give up the field goal. Anyway, you roll with your offense that was rolling. So, but the point that I made that Joe said was a good point was after taking that off the table. If you're going to go out and you're going to run down the play clock and try to get them to jump off sides, why did you do it with your punt team? I mean, once you started moving guys around on the punt team, they knew what you were trying to do. They weren't fooled for that for one moment. You were more likely to get a jump off sides if you would have kept your offense on the field, and then you take the penalty and then you run out the punt team. So that's the one that baffles me as much as anything is that, one, yes, I think they should have gone for it. And two, if you weren't going to go for it and you were going to take the 5-yard penalty, do it with your offense on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that you said. Bryan, what about you? What were your thoughts on the 4th and 1?
I absolutely hated it, and I got actually a private text from Joe's wife, Sophia Vergara, and she asked me what I thought, and we texted back and forth for a while about it, and I'm going to leave all that out. But and I'm not going to do her accent either. But all I'm going to say is, I really hated the whole thing. I mean, I agree with everything Dave says, man. You're rolling. You're getting it together. You could really put a dent in this game. You could really flip the script. And they didn't flip the script because they went back to the punt, which I think go for it. Because if you don't make it, guess what? You have a chance to still stop them maybe 20 yards difference. So, I mean, now it worked for them. It worked for them when things didn't go right in Indianapolis when they went for it on 4th and 1 at the 1 or so and didn't get in. And I get it. And I said that was a pretty big deal. But in this game, when you can't leave anything on the table, when you're in the fourth quarter now and you see what the Browns are doing, you've got to go for it. I really think you do.
For a head coach that says we don't live in our fears, to me, that was the epitome of living in your fears. And he tried to wordsmith his way around it in the post-game press conference and said, well, our defense had done a good job. Well, yeah, but your offense was rolling too. Why would you take them off the field? Like, you've got to come back from that deficit. You have to take chances. You have to take risks. And sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. My question is, if they would have gone for it and didn't get it, would everyone be going berserk about he should have punted? And that's the thing. I know I honestly wouldn't have, but I'm sure there would be people that would.
You got to go for it when you get the chance.
Exactly. Dave, did you have something to say? I saw your hand up.
Yeah, well, because the other thing is that's not the only questionable punt of the game. I'm sorry, but with 12:25 left in the second quarter, yes, it was 4th and 9, but you're on the 38-yard line. You're on the Browns' 38-yard line, and you're already down. I'm pretty sure at the time that was, if it wasn't 28-0, it was 28. No, it was 28-0. You're now 28-0 in the second quarter, and you're in the other team's territory, just outside of field goal range. Once you cross, I'm sorry, when you're down that much, once you cross the 50, if you're not in field goal range, you're in 4-down territory. When you're down by that much, I don't know why in the world they punted at the 38-yard line, 38-yard line. Gave it up at the 10. They gained 28 yards of field position there. Really, that made the difference.
Yeah. Let's get to some super chats here. Kyle Smith gives us $5. Offense put them in a hole, but the defense made no splash plays to help. Keep Juju and Hilton is all I ask for next year, and I love him, but cut Pouncey. They have some tough decisions. I will say that took a quick swing over to Twitter, and Ben Roethlisberger in his post-game press conference said that he would love to come back if the Steelers will have him. He said those are discussions that will have to happen. So says someone told me on Twitter when I said that it's going to be up to Ben whether he returns, they said, why? Troy didn't get that option. I don't know. I mean,
they have an easy fix here.
What's that?
If they want Ben to leave without Ben leaving, you cut Pouncey.
Why? Because you think he wouldn't come back?
If they cut Pouncey, I think Ben leaves. So if you don't want to cut Ben, but you don't want him to come back, then you cut Pouncey. This is all.
It's all
I still wouldn't say that I'm going to do that. I'm just telling you that's an option.
It's a good option. Andrew gives us $4.99. Says, is this game on the offense or the defense? Obviously, huge mistakes on both ends, but who takes the brunt of the blame? Good Lord, Jeff. Here, this was awful. All right, let's talk about that quickly. Bryan, go ahead. Offense or defense? Which was worse?
I'm actually going to say the defense was worse, and there's probably going to be some people that disagree with me. But here's the deal. They did not stop anybody on any of those turnovers. I mean, now look, they had no opportunity to stop anybody on the first turnover. We know that because the defense scored that. But on all those other picks, especially early on to get to 28-0, they were capitalizing on everything, if not a punt. And so the defense was not stopping them at all. Baker Mayfield, he didn't pass a whole heck of a lot, but when he did, he looked superb, and I hate the guy. I cannot stand the guy. I don't think he's great. You can say it, but he didn't suck tonight. Nick Chubb couldn't stop him. Could not stop Kareem Hunt. They stopped Kareem Hunt more last week than they did this week. So, we had a Browns troll. I was looking at the live chat, said, hey, you couldn't beat us last week. You couldn't beat us this week with all of your starters on your elite defense. Ha ha ha. Well, great. Great. Rub the salt in the wounds. Thanks. Welcome to the show. But here's the thing. He's right. But still, he's rubbing it in. So, But all I'm going to say is, we didn't show up. The Steelers did not show up on defense. And that's where I'm pinning the blame, because the Steelers had opportunities to come back in that second half. Gosh, they really did, because at one point they're 12 down. And that's not, you're in a situation there where you can get back in this game with plenty of time, an entire quarter to go. And you don't do it because the defense won't help you out.
Dave, offense or defense, which was more disappointing?
I think the entire Pittsburgh Steelers were disappointing. I think they were both extremely disappointing, but I'm actually going to put it more on the offense.
Okay.
I just was putting that out there as the disclaimer. The reason I'm putting it more on the offense is the offense sucked the wind out of the defense before they stepped on the field. I mean, the defense stepped on the field down 7-0 and the ball in their own territory off of a turnover. Already had given up a touchdown and had already done the interception to where the Browns had it across midfield. That's the situation the offense put the defense in. Now, the defense needed to rise up to the occasion, and they did not. So it's still also on the defense. But the reason I'm putting on the offense is it's like who came out flat first? The offense came out way, who knows? If the Steelers, if the Steelers win the coin flip and defer, is it more on the defense then perhaps? Or does this game play out completely different because that first play changed everything? I don't know. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. If ifs and nuts were candies and nuts, I say ifs and nuts, ifs and butts. Okay. That's what happens when it's 12:30 and we're trying to do a podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
So
to me, it was the defense. To me, it was the defense. Short and sweet. The defense, the offense has had issues. It was supposed to be the defense that was going to carry this team. Didn't happen. Not sure if I know how to say this correctly. Kalal, I don't know. Says gives us $5. Says, guess we're not the same old Browns. Juju sucks with a bunch of laughing emojis. If a Browns fan wants to give us $5, thank you for the tip. We appreciate it. Doc Holliday gives us $2. The BS Tomlin sells each week is harder to take. It can get a little thick. We'll put it that way. I know I'm missing some here, Dave. Let's see if I can catch up.
I'm trying to find them.
No, but this is fun. All right, I've got.
I know I had one that I lost.
Okay, that's fine. Find it. Runner Delgado gives us $1.99. Said ESPN just showed replays of Ben crying on the sideline. I'm missing everything good by this show. Yeah. I am him gives us $5. Says although we were down the whole game, we showed some fight. With that said. What were the 2 or 3 plays that define the game? BTSC for life, go Steelers. Thank you very much. I am him. The 3 or 4 games, 2 or 3 plays. We'll get into that in a second. Maybe in the second half of the show here.
There was one that we're past. I can't even find on my phone, but I know it was about. I know it was aimed at. I know it was a shot at me. It was saying we didn't have the talent. Are you kidding me? Did you look at the first 11 games? Remember. Everyone was saying they're the worst 11-0 team ever, So, and Coach Tomlin saying that the only thing perfect about us is our record. What I'm not saying that the Steelers don't have talent. I'm just saying that even starting 11-0, to say that they have talent that's being wasted by the coaches that's so far over and above everybody else. I don't think anybody has the talent that's over and above everybody else.
Yeah, no, I agree. Evgeny Crosby, $4.99 in the tip jar, is the slowest linebacking core I've ever seen in my life tonight. That sums it up. So here's what's going to happen.
Good.
Yeah. No. If you are new to the show or you're just stumbling upon the show, which combined with Facebook and YouTube, we had over 1,000 people watching us live right now. We're not going anywhere, but if you're on the audio side, hold tight. When we come back, we're going to be talking about coaches or players. Who's to blame more? We'll be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to part 2 of the Steelers Post-Game Podcast. I'm Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And with you tonight, we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers' devastating loss, deflating loss, whatever adjective you want to use. With me, as always, Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer, Dave Schofield, the other co-editor. And let's get to some of these live chats to get started. OCamsOX gave us $24.99. He says, everyone is responsible. This was a train wreck. At this point, there should be maybe a handful of guys that should be considered protected. Tomlin should be given one real rebuild. Ben, See you, Space Cowboy. And he gave us $24.99. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Brandon Keene gave us $4.99. Ben for 500 plus and 4 INTs and scores 37 points. Loses to the Browns, who scored 48. It's okay to smile and tip your cap to the Browns. Good for the decal. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that, just to be honest. So let's talk about this quickly. If you give us a live chat, we're going to try our best to get to it. I got into a pretty interesting debate with a fellow Steeler fan on Twitter. So Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. And real quick, Jake Sanchez gives us $5 that we need to fire Randy. We're way too predictable. We'll get to that in a sec. In Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio said, this is all on Tomlin. And so I quote tweeted it and said, is it really? Because last time I checked, it wasn't Tomlin that snapped the ball over Ben's head. It wasn't Tomlin that threw interceptions. It wasn't Tomlin that's missing tackles left and right. And of course, there's people that, say, oh, you're such a Tomlin fan, blah, blah, blah. Okay, look, I've never said that I'm not. I like Mike Tomlin. I have no problem with Mike Tomlin. That doesn't mean he doesn't have his issues. But at the same time, this one fan just kept on coming back to this. And I eventually got down to look, you're either in one of two camps with this discussion and this debate. You're in the camp that is coaches are the ones that have to prepare their players to play, and they have to put them in with a chance to succeed. Okay, that would be your camp. And then there's the camp, which is the one that I reside in, and that is coaches can only do so much. The players have to go out and execute. So I want to ask you all, which camp do you reside in? Brian, what about you? What do you want to go?
I feel it's the players executing ultimately.
Yeah, I'm not. And again, if you're probably with me here. It's not that the coaches don't have any role. They do have a role. But I think when it comes to what trumps the other, I'm going to say that players executing. Dave, what about you?
All right. It's a combination of the two things, because now you're like, it's such a David, but no, no, I got to tell you the honest truth. It's not like pick one, because it's not one, because the coaches have to develop the game plan to implement. The coaches have to make the in-game decisions based on things are going on what's going on. And do you punt on 4th and 1 and things like that? But if the players aren't executing the game plan, then there's nothing you can do. If the game plan sucks, then it doesn't matter how good your players are. It's not going to matter. And as we can see, sometimes the offensive game plan sucks, so that's all. That's why it could be either or. But when you're talking about when you're throwing interceptions and snapping the balls over the head, that's not coaches, unless you're saying that they're got to get them ready to play. You're not talking to a bunch of 13-year-old kids going out to play their first football game in high school when you're trying to get them fired up. These are guys that have been there, done that for a long time. You can do that, but if you're not out there playing for yourself and for your team at that point, then I don't know how you made it that far.
And you can also never, as a coach, you can never fully get over a start like that. Mm-hmm. You can't prepare for the first snap from scrimmage to go over the quarterback's head. And then I don't know if it was a lapse in judgment. It looked like Ben thought that Connor was going to jump on it. They could have just kicked it out of the back of the end zone, taken a safety, but instead it turns into a touchdown. You can't ever prepare for that. It throws everything off. It is what it is. I see what you're saying, Dave. Cascade gives us $4.99, says we were so close. I don't think anyone thought the Browns would win, but since they did, at least they have to face the Chiefs next week. Shoot, I want the Chiefs to lose. I'm sick and tired of the Chiefs. I'll tell you that right now. That's going to be a game I probably just won't watch. Let's see here. What else did we miss here? Doc Holliday gave us another $2. Terrell Edmonds couldn't tackle a drunk toddler. He also couldn't catch a football to save his life.
Hey, they move around a lot. So that's not an easy thing, especially if they're drunk.
Or did every player that did not play in Week 17 just kind of seemed off for a while? Not just the guys that sat, but the guys that came back from IR and the guys that missed last game injured, with the exception of Chris Boswell.
Yeah, but even Chris Boswell wasn't getting touchbacks.
I don't know if they were trying for touchdowns.
I don't know.
I'll disagree with that a little bit, because I know Ebron had a drop, but for the most part,
he had a few early on.
Yeah, but he was hauling them in for the most part. Ben was missing them.
Nick Clark gives us $10 that I had faith in the coaches for years. Now I wonder maybe this team would be better with better coaches, playing, calling, but my fears say that the players just aren't as good as we think. How do we get better? Let's talk about the coaches. This is going to be something a lot of people want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Before we get into this, $10 from Jeff. He said 3 December collapses in a row, 2 home playoff blunders in a row. This is an unbecoming pattern, to be honest. And that's absolutely right. And we'll tie this all together here. First question, yes or no? Mike Tomlin is back in 2021. Bryan, go. This should be easy.
Absolutely.
Dave?
Yes.
I agree. Next question, Keith Butler is back for next season. Bryan?
I say yes.
Dave?
I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say yes as well. Here's the one everyone wants to know. Randy Fichtner is back in 2021. Bryan?
Absolutely not.
Really? Now, let's say that Ben is coming back, though. You still say no?
You don't give Ben a choice.
Oof.
No.
Okay. Dave?
No, and they don't have to fire him, but they just don't have to give him a new contract because it's.
Is that true that his contract
That's
is?
What I heard. I haven't actually gone in and looked because it's hard. You can't find coaches' contracts. No. It's hard to find them, but that's what I heard. If not, then fire him.
Yeah, because if his contract is up, they could just simply say, thanks for your time. We're not going to deal with this anymore, and we're going to move on. Do they promote Matt Canada to offensive coordinator? Or do they go out of the organization? Bryan, what do you think?
I think you have to go out of the organization completely. Now, we had some talk about this on our Slack channel the other day. I mean, my first inclination is to look at a guy like Anthony Lynn, but a lot of people have said, here's the problem with that. You don't want to bring a veteran coach in. A veteran coach doesn't want to have anything to do with a veteran quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger. I just don't think that Ben Roethlisberger really has choices like I just said before. When we had the situation 3 years ago, and when Todd Haley's contract was up, they just said goodbye. They did not post that job. They didn't do anything. They just said, it's Randy Fichtner's because that's what Ben wanted. And end of story. So, and I don't think I'm wrong on that. So I really don't think with what has happened this year, and I feel like there's a little bit of a divorce going on anyways between Ben and Fichtner, because there's a lot of throwing each other under the bus this year, a lot like it was towards the end of Haley and Haley with Ben. So what I'm thinking here is when we start saying, hey, Ben is calling his own plays, he's working them up in the dirt against Dallas, and Fichtner's like, no, that's not what happened. No, I'm responsible for that comeback. And so that little back and forth, that shows me that Ben's not going to get his way anymore, and Ben might not even want that way.
What about you, Dave? Do you think they promote Canada, or do they go out of the organization?
Honestly, we haven't heard much about it. I hate to say it kind of depends on how Ben feels about Canada. It really does. If Ben likes him and likes what he does, then it's a chance. If not really, then they might look other places.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's a good point. I'm going to say that Fichtner is gone, but I think that they will still try to. If Ben's back, I think they'll promote Canada. But again, it's something that Kevin Smith, who's on our Slack channel and on our podcast platform for the pregame show, he said that this is not. Ben Roethlisberger running a Matt Canada offense is not going to be pretty. So you got to weigh that in as well. Mm-hmm. I do know we had a tip from someone earlier saying it would be great to get Devin Bush back in Bud Dupree. Devin Bush, yes. There you go. Thank you, Nate.
Okay.
Will be good to see Dupree and Bush back. $1.99. Thank you very much. I don't think Dupree's coming back. Bryan, you agree?
No, I don't think he's coming back either.
Yeah, Devin Bush, it'll be good to see him back though, for sure. So here, Andrew gives us $4.99. He said, season over. What do we do now? LOL. Thank you guys so much for the ride. It was fun. Wishing for better things in the coming season. Much love. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate it. Alfred gives us up. Go ahead. Get that.
This was the next one on the list I had. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You might have missed this one.
I did. Evgeny Crosby, $4.99. There's so many people to blame. Offense, defense, special teams all sucked. Even the kick coverage is bad. The kick coverage had been bad for a while, to be honest with you. And Alfred gives us $1.99. Hey, Bad, remember the 49ers comparison? I was wrong. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but
I don't remember either, but I'm sure we had that conversation, and I've gotten some private messages from Alfred too. So I'm not sure, but I guess he believes he was wrong on it.
Yeah. Barry Fox gives us $5. If we see a question there, let us know, and we'll get it up there. Ron Reed gives us $2. The linebacker play was deplorable. # blow it up. Oh, man, this is awful. I can't stand this stuff. Okay.
You guys are very generous, but with everything, they're coming so fast. I feel like we've missed some, and I feel bad if we have.
Yes, I probably know that we have, but it's just a situation where there's so many people that want to get their thoughts out, and Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going to be happening moving forward. There's a lot of people that say that now's the time to blow it up. And when they say blow it up, it's you part ways with Roethlisberger, you let some of these higher price tag free agents, pending free agents go, you create some salary cap space, and you kind of start from the ground floor. The problem with that is, and this is something that Jeffrey Benedict put in the live chat, he said, I feel horrible for Joe Hayden. Because when you think about it, Joe Hayden's a veteran, and he wasn't able to play today because of COVID-19 protocols. You feel bad for people like that, but Joe Hayden is a guy that could potentially be on the chopping block because of his salary. Brian Davis, we'll start with you first. Is this the time to blow it up, or is this the time to try to cling to one more year before it's done? What do you think, Brian?
I'm usually not that guy that says that, but I'm saying it's time to really blow it up and not cling on, because you're going to get more of what you had this season with some guys getting older and just delaying the inevitable.
Dave, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of players that are caught, or the Steelers restructured just about everybody that they could. No, they did restructure everybody that they could in order to get as much money for this year as possible. And unfortunately, with those players, almost all of them, next year's the year. So they pushed the money. They didn't pay them anymore. They just pushed their cap number to next year. I mean, like just some of the dead money on some of these, like Ben Roethlisberger's $22.25 million dead money. Stephon Tuitt is over $9 million. David DeCastro's dead money, it's actually one of the lower ones at $5.5 million. Joe Hayden's dead money is $8.5 million. Cam Hayward that was different because his goes out over several years. Pouncey's dead money's over $6 million. And I mean, some of these you can save some money with these guys, but you're still going to be paying. If you move on from them, you're still going to be having an awful lot of it count towards the salary cap. You're going to have to make some moves with some of them. You really are. But tough decisions. And I'm sorry. It just sucks that this is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
It's not what we were supposed to be talking about. We were supposed to be talking about the divisional round, and instead we're talking about what can we do for next season. And I'm sorry, it's a little bit depressing to be talking at almost 1 a.m. Eastern about who's going to be around next year.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yep.
Steel Dog 88 gives us $2. He said, "Is it time for Vince Williams to retire?" What's his cap hit there, Dave?
Vince Williams, his cap hit. The Steelers would save $4 million on the cap. He has dead money of just over $3 million.
Okay, I mean that's an option. That's not a lot though. That's not a lot of savings. Runner Delgado 299. He said, "I still think Pouncey lost us the game." Look, no one's disagreeing that it got him off to a horrible start, but at the same time, I'm not going to say he lost us the game.
There's a lot of people that.
Yeah, Jeremy Smith gives us $4.99. He said, "Yes, Tomlin has his issues, while Coach doesn't. For those that want him gone, who is legitimately better option that's available?" That's what I always come back to: is give me someone that's better, and then we'll talk about it. I don't know if there's anyone out there right now that's available that's better. Nick Clark gives us $2. Won the North, yet only team not to advance. That's sad. That is
the other two North teams play on.
Jeez, Nick, thanks a lot for putting it that way. Dave gives us $5. He says, I feel this was an all-in season for the Steelers. Next year will probably be a rough year with cap issues. Thanks for the season, Steeler Nation. Appreciate you, Dave. Thank you very much. Let me see here. We got a couple others, I think, to get to. Here we go. Machu. Wow, $100. Yep. Goodness gracious. He said, off-season should be entertaining. Guess what? We start next season tied for first place. $100 equals 0-0. Finally, my blood pressure and stress levels can take a break for 206 days. It's until the Hall of Fame game. You got a fan for life here. The show, by the way, how can I get some BTSC gear? Here we go. If you do want Behind the Steel Curtain gear, any of the shirts that we've sold, even just the standard Behind the Steel Curtain t-shirts, if you go to behindthesteelcurtain.com, scroll down the page and you'll see a tab that says BTSC Apparel. Click on that and you'll see all of the options that you can go in and you can order straight from those articles. You can check it out. We appreciate it. If you want to buy anything and rep the BTSC brand, that's always pretty cool. So I want to throw it to you guys. We have 10 minutes here left, guys. I forget to Lewis. Goodness. You guys are so generous. I don't want to make it sound like this is a burden, but it's just, he said early, but anyone looking at drafting quarterback Trey Lance, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah. He's North Dakota State.
Yep.
Right. He'd be a great. I don't know that he'll be there 24 though. That's the thing. Now I got to start looking at the college guys and the draft.
Mock draft Monday for you, Dave. Mock draft Monday.
Not tomorrow. We'll wait another week.
Doc Holliday gives us $5. Have to make smart team decisions. Get these old players out. Stop restructuring contracts. Better drafting. Better player development. You guys are great. Thanks, Doc. We appreciate you.
I still think the Steelers had a good 2020 draft. I mean,
yeah. Who would? I don't think anyone in their right mind would say it was a bad one.
Well, I mean, I didn't like the McFarland pick when they made it. Then I started to come around to it more, and then how they used him and had him not even active at the end of the year, that made me not like it as much. But I mean, if you're talking about getting three good players in Claypool, Highsmith, and Dotson out of the draft, that's good.
Yeah. Not to mention your 7th round pick that everyone thought was just a project actually had defensive snaps this year, and Carlos Davis. So keep that in mind too. Jake Sanchez gives us $5. He said, it doesn't matter how great your defense is when the offense continues to put them in bad situations, blow up the offense. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to blow up. We'll put it that way. Let's do it this way. Bryan, go ahead, and anything that's on your mind that you want to talk about before we call it a show.
You know, this is one of the worst losses that I have known in my 40-some years as being a fan. And I got to tell you, it really does hurt. So when everybody anything that you're saying on the live chat, we agree with and we understand, because you're hurting too. Because football for us is an escape. And I know it's that way for you too. When I go to the movies, I go there to escape life for a little bit and jump in the shoes of Will Smith or Mel Gibson or whoever I'm watching, Brad Pitt, whoever I'm watching. I've become them for a little bit so I can get away from it. So when I'm watching the Steelers, I kind of do the same thing. And I hurt for them. Like, we talked about Pouncey on the sidelines, Ben on the sidelines. I hurt for those guys. And I hurt for the fact that I wrapped a lot of my hopes into this whole thing because my escape is now gone. But I know immediately I'm going to jump back on it, and we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be working just as hard in the offseason. When I say we, I'm talking BTSC, to go ahead and give you the same amount of content. And we are going to be looking at a lot of players, a lot of information, a lot of stuff, and I'll get back into it, and I'll have something to look forward to. And one of Matt Shue put it up there, 206 days, and that's what I'm pinning my hopes on again, looking to see where this team is in 206 days. So it's over for 2020. This was one of the weirdest years I've ever experienced as a fan too, especially going 11-0 and turning around and having one win down the stretch. It was, it was the best of both worlds. And then it was the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But I know, win or lose, black and gold is in my veins. So that's the blood that is when you cut me, It's red, but it's got black and gold, deep inside. That's what the iron inside my blood is. So all I'm saying is, you know what? I'm going to go to bed demoralized, wake up tomorrow, and get back to it. And that's what I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers do. If they do suffer a 5-11 season next year and end up with another Ben Roethlisberger, I'm cool with that as well. It's going to stink along the way, but I'd be cool with that. But if they find a way to turn things around and get another magical season when you just don't expect it, that would be amazing as well. But whatever they do, Steelers forever.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Evgeny Crosby gives us $4.99. Said, all you fake Steeler fans need to get lost. We don't need you, and we'll be back. Look, we all mourn in our own way, okay? Some people want to yell and scream. Some people want to look at it logistically. Everyone's different. Let's be accepting of everyone. Brandon Keene, $4.99, said Peyton lost a snap and won it a couple years later. A couple tweaks, and here we go. TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year. All right, Dave, your turn. Go ahead.
I have a lot of things to say. I do, and I'm going to forget some of them because I'm tired. But first thing, I'm going to tell you this. I love these Pittsburgh Steelers. I am frustrated. I am sad. I am depressed. What was it? He said sad and angry. We're sangry, okay, is what's going on. But you know what I'm going to do tonight I'm going to get off here. I'm going to obviously have to write an article for the site tomorrow. And before I go to bed, I'm going to go into my kids' rooms. I'm going to, peek at my kids. Because when I'm down and I'm depressed, I go in and I just take a look at them while they're sleeping and remember that there are other things in life other than just the Steelers, even for us. So always remember that, everyone. There's other things out there. We love our Steelers. Okay? We do. But we have other things that we love too. Now, I said something early on. I don't know if it was when the Steelers were around where they were about 5-0 or 6-0, and we're all excited about the streak. And I said something, and boy, oh boy, did they really come back to haunt us. I'm going to go with 6-0 because that's just when I remember it. And I said, this streak to start the season doesn't matter if you don't finish. And I said I would rather have those 6 straight wins at the end of the season than I would at the beginning of the season. And unfortunately, now we're seeing why that's important. And the frustrating thing is why I want to see at least – I was disappointed last year that there was so little change to the coaching staff, and I'm afraid just because it's the way the Steelers do think there's going to be so little again. I'm not saying it has to be the top man. I had even said that, hey, when the Steelers were struggling and things needed to be fixed, you got to lay this at Tomlin's feet, not because – it was his fault. It's because he's the overall guy. If the coordinators are doing something wrong, he's the one that's got to get them in gear. And if the coordinators or the position coaches or anyone else, if they're not getting it done right, then they've got to go now. He's got to make those decisions if he's going to be the guy that's staying here. Because my wife, who doesn't follow football, she knew the game wasn't out of hand, and she came down to see how I was doing. And she's like, but they were doing so good this season, is what she says. And I said, yeah. She's like, well, what happened? I'm like, the NFL, I'm starting to think that teams that don't get to practice all week, what do you do when you can't practice on the field? You're in meetings and you're game planning more. You're breaking down more film. You're figuring out what else you need to do. So it seemed like that the Browns were almost more mentally prepared and had a better plan for this game. But especially it might even been an advantage with knowing their coach wouldn't be there, that all the work had to be done ahead of time. And that's what I think is going on with the Steelers down the stretch, is that the NFL is constantly evolving even throughout the season. You can't do in week 1 and expect the exact same thing to work in week 10. It just doesn't work that way. And I felt like the Steelers were so content with their wins, and I'm mainly talking offensively, that they weren't willing to try to plan ahead of the curve. They didn't have the foresight to see what they still needed to do to be successful, more than just we're going to do what we do and do it better. And when we kept hearing those words, it was extremely frustrating, because you know what? It's the other team's job to figure out what you're doing. And And that's what you've got to stay ahead of it. And that's where I think the Steelers were really lacking this year. That's where I'd like to see a little bit more thought into it, because I don't want to predict what you're going to do. I mean, this game was different because you know that when the Steelers get down big, they're just going to have to chuck the ball because that's what people are going to have to do. And, and they do that fairly well. Would have really liked to have seen a regular game and not just the weird game that this worked out to be. But please don't do the frustrating thing when the Steelers were struggling was everyone says the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over and expecting a different result, that they wanted to run the same plays. I mean, they ran the same fullback dive in the same situation twice tonight, worked the great time first time when they caught him off guard, didn't work at all the second time. So the insanity is going to be if you think that you're constantly starting slow. Is that really on the players or is that on your script? And if you're not going to make the changes you need to change, then it's just going to be a little bit frustrating going into next year, or very frustrating going into next year. I'm sorry, I've said more than I needed to.
All right. Machi gives us $5 and says anything to look at with Omar. He's talking about Omar Khan going on interviews. Does he want out or testing the waters? I think he's wanted to be a general manager. I mean, there's a potential that he could be the next GM for the Steelers if Kevin Colbert wants to step down. But he was in line rumors today were that he was in line to get the Texans job. Then the Texans kind of just chose someone else. So Omar Khan is a whiz. He's a whiz kid with the salary cap. If he leaves Pittsburgh, the Steelers will miss his skill set. Absolutely. So for me, my final thoughts are simple. As long as I can remember, thinking back to the Steelers, I would always be the kid that would I never let these things go. I've always had comments. I swear I'll never forget in '94 when the Steelers lost to the Chargers at Three River Stadium. I was the kid that, I don't know, hours after the game was over, I look over at my dad. I'm like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe that. My dad's like, Jeff, you just let it go, man. But that's just me. I think things kind of linger. This is where it's awesome that we have this privilege to have a microphone in front of us, to be able to have this outlet. And I really do encourage you, if you've enjoyed this season of content, stick with us. Literally don't go anywhere. Because it's not just going to turn into, this week being nothing but, moaning and groaning. It's literally going to evolve. It's going to start to turn into free agency talk, players to look for, players to keep, who should they cut, all that stuff. And it's going to evolve into the NFL draft, which is probably our biggest weekend of the entire year. And then we'll be able to break down those players. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, this upcoming season will be more normal than what we had in 2020, meaning there will be OTAs, there will be mini camps, and there will be stuff to report. We are going to have it all for you right here, not only at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, but also on our podcast platform. So this is not just it for us in terms of Facebook live videos and YouTube live videos, but also anywhere where you get podcasts, we have more content than what we offer right here. So wherever you get your podcast, search Steelers, Behind the Steel Curtain, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do. If you want to hear me rail off about this game, check out my Let's Ride Tomorrow to run at 12 p.m. Because honestly, I could go on and on. I will go on and on. You can check that out for yourself. But before we call it a show, Runner Delgado gives us $4.99. He said, with the cap hit next year, how many more years before you think we are contenders again? If Ben comes back and plays well, and let me throw this in there. I said this on my Let's Ride podcast a few weeks ago. Ben Roethlisberger had to spend the vast majority of the last offseason rehabbing an elbow, not getting ready necessarily for a full season. He should have, if he's going to come back in 2021, he should have a full offseason to get his whole body, his arm ready for the season. And if he comes back and he can play well and they can manipulate the cap, and like Bryan always says, they find a way, I think they could be contenders next year. I really do. I just don't see why that expectation should drop, but I might be in the minority, and that's fine. So, guys, anything else for the good of the order?
Like you said, Jeff, this is not the end for us as far as BTSC, but I want to thank everybody who has made this a very interesting season, and we can't do this without you. So thanks so much to everybody in the live chat, everybody that's listening to us that doesn't show up in the live chat, but we have a lot of loyal fans on the audio-only platform, and we appreciate you also. Don't go away. We've got so much more for you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for tuning in this season. I hope you all enjoyed it. Stick with us. We're not going anywhere. BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Steelers. In the meantime, folks, that's it. 2020 season. That's a wrap. Another playoff loss. Haven't won one since 2016. Goodness gracious. We'll see you.